People of Iowa.
They threw everything but the kitchen sink at us because of your support. In spite of all of that they threw at us, everyone against us, we've got our ticket punched out of Iowa.
When you look at how we're doing in New Hampshire, in South Carolina, and beyond, I can safely say tonight, Iowa made this Republican primary a two-person race.
How about Donald Trump taking Iowa by storm and by sleet, hail, rain, wind? Not really rain, but definitely Arctic chill. Historic landslide in the caucuses, and now the race moves on to New Hampshire a week from today. Could be a whole new ball game. We'll find out as we go together. If you were with us late last night, we say good morning. Back in Des Moines, I'm Bill Hemmer. How you doing?
Good morning to you, Bill Hemmer. I'm Dana Perino, and this is America's Newsroom. We're the last men standing. Here we are, and we are glad to be here. It was a stunning show of strength. The former president clearing the important hurdle of 50%. That gives him a majority of the vote. And he did so by running up the score with nearly every key voting group in communities across the Hawkeye state. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis edging out Nikki Haley for second place, giving his campaign a little shot of adrenaline before they get going.
We could use
Carolina.
that too.
Yes.
Right? We've got every angle for you. Jessica Tarloff, Kellyanne Conway, Katie Pavlich. Great panel with the ladies coming up here to break down the numbers, tell you what it means today. Alexis McAdams, she is stationed in New Hampshire already. That's the next stop, a week from today. But first, Bill Malugin has the wrap from Des Moines here in Iowa. Bill, hello to you. One last shot here from the capital city. Hello.
Yeah, Bill, good morning to you. Just for a little perspective on how dominant Donald Trump was last night, he won 98 out of 99 counties here in Iowa. And the one county he lost by one single vote to Nikki Haley. After his big win last night, he even sounded complimentary of his opponents. Take a listen.
I want to congratulate Ron and Nikki for having a good time together. We're all having a good time together. And I think they both actually did very well. I also want to congratulate Vivek because he did a hell of a job.
And as for Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, they were pretty much neck and neck all night. But by the end of the night, it was Governor DeSantis who ended up taking second place. He came in at 21%, actually overperformed some of those pre-election polls that had him in third place. Nikki Haley coming in third place last night at about 19%. DeSantis says with that second place finish behind Donald Trump, he punched his ticket out of Iowa. Take a listen.
You helped us get a ticket punched out of the Hawkeye state. I am going to get the job done for this country. I am not going to make any excuses, and I guarantee you this, I will not let you down.
And as for Vivek Ramaswamy, he finished in fourth place with just under 8% of the vote. He announced last night he is dropping out. He is suspending his campaign and also announced he is endorsing Donald Trump for president. And back out here live, just to give you an idea of how quickly the political winds can shift these days, Vivek Ramaswamy says he is going to be joining Donald Trump on the campaign trail at a rally with him in New Hampshire this week. And keep in mind, just a couple days ago, Donald Trump posted on Truth Social that Vivek Ramaswamy is, quote, sly, deceitful, not MAGA, and told people a vote for him is a wasted vote. We'll send it back to you.
You got Bill Malugin in Des Moines. Dana? Let's
get to New Hampshire now, and if you follow the polls, this may be a much tighter race than Iowa. Alexis McAdams, she is there. She's in Bedford, New Hampshire. She has more on this nominating contest that happens a week from today. Hi, Alexis.
Hi, Dana. Yeah, a little bit of snow here in New Hampshire, but it's a lot warmer than where you are in Iowa as those three candidates all head here to the Granite State. We can tell you Nikki Haley, came in third place there in Iowa, but she says she is still feeling very confident here in New Hampshire. She'll be out here today talking to voters. Dana, she says Americans want to see somebody else in the White House, not Trump or Biden again. Watch.
It was very good to us. But now New Hampshire is going to go and continue what's happening and set the tone as it goes to my sweet home state of South Carolina. This is the process. This is what I love. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Now, this all comes after Iowa, right, where they were all on the ground for days. Former President Donald Trump, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley will be here tonight. The three have been campaigning in the Granite State for weeks, working hard to gain that support. DeSantis, though, right, he spent so much time in Iowa and so much money. Nikki Haley, though, earned the major endorsement of New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu, so she was here quite a bit, and he's very popular in the state. Trump says he's not worried about New Hampshire because he says he won here before and can do it again. But people who live here say in order to win New Hampshire, you got to connect with these voters one-on-one.
You know, it's a small area, so they don't really have anywhere to go. So they look them directly in the eyes, are able to, have these tough conversations, and the customers do a great job at vetting them.
I can't say that. But some polls showed GOP race here in New Hampshire could be much closer than it was in Iowa. Take a look at that poll from last week. It shows Trump leading among likely primary voters with 39%. Haley a close second place with 32%. That's a 12-point jump, Dana, just from November alone. So she's gaining lots of steam out here. She's already on the ground. All eyes now here on the Granite State as they all work hard to gain more voters, Dana.
Interesting to see, though. So Christie drops out last week. Does she pick up some of those? But when Vivek leaves the race, does Trump take those as well? So probably, and we will talk to our panel about that in a minute. Right. But let's get back to Bill, who's still on the board this morning.
Hey, Dana, we showed you this late last night, about midnight last night. This is where we were 8 years ago in the Republican primary in New Hampshire. Really, we made the point last evening. This is when you knew that Trump's campaign from 2016 was legit. He doubled up on John Kasich. Even more so on Ted Cruz. Take it down memory lane here, if I could. Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, who did pretty well here in Iowa, as we pointed out. That's Chris Christie. He's since dropped from the race. Who else we got? All right, these are the results in the presidential level. He lost the state against Hillary Clinton by half a point. So we'll go through all that in the coming week or so. Let me go back to last night quickly, Dana, and show you what Bill Maloogian was alluding to, right? A lot of the maps red. That's Trump, 51%. That's a big number right there. That's his campaign wanted, and they got it. This orange mark here is Johnson County. That's the University of Iowa. That's Iowa City. That's Caitlin Clark and the Hawkeye women's basketball team that are doing so well. Johnson County is a really interesting deal. Nikki Haley won it by one vote last night. One vote, okay? So you've got that. The rest of the map is red. I'm going to move across the room here. You know the full Grassley, right, Dana?
I do.
Okay, 99 counties. Senator Chuck Grassley, he invented, been doing it forever. Twice when he campaigned in this state, he won every county except for one. And that was Johnson County.
That was the one?
That was in 2010 and 2016. Otherwise, he did it. The full Grassley, he won all 99 counties, but Trump did not pull it.
We're going to have to keep you around because you're full of information, and I love information. And we love these ladies here that are with us. Jessica Tarloff, Kellyanne Conway, Katie Pavlich. Great to have you, Fox News contributors all. And here we are, Kellyanne, kicking off the 2024 election, the general election, not too far away, but a primary still underway. Nikki Haley says this is a two-person race. How does she get to that calculation?
She's right. Nikki Haley's right. It is a two-person race between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And it is time to heal and unify the party the way Vivek Ramaswamy and others in the United States Senate and Congress and governorships that are coming out to endorse Donald Trump are doing. Maybe people see him as the unlikely healer, the unlikely unifier, but this is the will of the people. And Dana, whether you're in this business or especially if you're in politics and more importantly governance, the will of the people is the most important thing, and they have spoken loudly and clearly. If Bill's talking about one county, basically 1% of the state that went for Nikki Haley, then that tells the tale. Also, I'm just curious what the path is forward. These races are going to come quickly. We're focused on New Hampshire, but then it's South Carolina, it's Nevada. It's Super Tuesday. I know the Trump campaign has always thought they can wrap this up by about March 19th, if not sooner. He won the nomination May 7th, 8 years ago. So this would really put them in a position to focus. I think the question also turns to the leadership in the Senate that's had a pretty fractured relationship with the president over time. I think it's the 7 Republicans who voted to impeach him the second time, for example. A few of them are retiring, already did. But it's now the burden is on their shoulders to unify. I looked at the polling. This is pretty big from last summer. Donald Trump in the summer, in July, was in the hovering around 40, almost 50. Ron DeSantis was in the teens, sometimes flirting with 20. And you see in the Fox News analysis, which is spot on in so many ways here in Iowa, you see there that people who made up their mind a long time ago knew all along how they were going to vote. About 8 and 10 of them were for Donald Trump. This is important because I think he also changes the rules of the game. You can spend all the money, you can have the Coke network, you can have these TV ads, you can, in the case of Ron DeSantis, invest 9 figures and still come up way short.
Okay. Katie, I want you to listen to Vivek Ramaswamy. We assume at some point today there's going to be an event in New Hampshire and the endorsement will come. Here he is late last night.
It is true that we did not achieve the surprise that we wanted to deliver tonight. And I think that that's just a hard fact that we're going to have to accept as a campaign. Earlier tonight, I called Donald Trump to tell him that I congratulated him on his victory, and now going forward, he will have my full endorsement for the presidency.
That's a pretty good outcome for Trump.
Yeah, and according to the Fox News voter analysis, Vivek was able to bring in new caucus voters in Iowa, which means he's capable of doing that in states that Donald Trump is going to be dominant in, as we're seeing moving forward. So he can be an asset for the president. Certainly with the polling, President Trump is far ahead. And if you look at the second choice, lots of Vivek voters are Trump voters as their second choice, and they're willing to translate that. That's not necessarily true for Chris Christie's voters going to a Nikki Haley or a Ron DeSantis. But in terms of last night and looking forward, I mean, Ron DeSantis visited every county in Iowa, 99 of them, and he didn't win a single one. He's going into New Hampshire down. South Carolina, Nikki Haley talks about going home, hopefully gaining some momentum there. She's down by 30 points in South Carolina. And so Republicans are looking at this and saying they want an alternative, but the Republican base and the Republican Party is with Donald Trump. When he was on stage last night, you heard him talk about senators, congressmen being there. You had a number of people standing behind him and endorsing him, coming out on the day of the caucus to do that. He is dominant. The whole strategy for alternative Republicans was that they wanted to make it a one-on-one race. They claimed that if the field was narrowed, that the math would add up to Trump not being in the lead. He's still in the lead by 10 points, even when you combine the second and third place.
It is commanding and enduring. We've been saying that. And Jessica, Newt Gingrich wrote, I think on FoxNews.com, that President Trump is leading a movement and there is enthusiasm behind him. Does Biden have that?
Well, I think so, and I think that his electoral record reflects it, and Democrats have been overperforming expectations.
But a movement?
Well, I don't. So no, he doesn't have a special name, right? It's not MAGA for us, but it's Democrats and stronger together and moving forward and winning elections. And that's what the ultimate goal is. So, yes, will Joe Biden be remembered in history in the same way as having started a movement? Probably not, but he'll be remembered in history as a winner. And that's pretty important, too. And what's so interesting about this race, and I've been saying for a while now, like let's just get to the Trump versus Biden thing, because that's what's really going on here. It's rare to see two incumbents running against each other. Donald Trump's going to have to talk about his record, and he's going to have to talk about the 4 years after that and what he would have done differently. And Joe Biden obviously has his record to defend. But to Katie's point about the 49% of the electorate here who didn't go for Donald Trump, a lot will, right? They'll back him up. But we know that Nikki Haley's voters, 43%, said they'll vote for Biden in the general election if it's Trump. How is he going to persuade those people, mostly college-educated women, that he can be better for them this time around, especially with the Dobbs decision front and center? And you better believe the Biden campaign is going to make that a linchpin of what they're talking about.
All great points. I wish we had more time because I think the next chapter of the story...
We can't say that the whole 2 hours?
We would love that, but folks back in New York would kill us. It's a very interesting point that you make, because if that is the general election we're headed toward, you have a Republican challenger who's going to be in and out of courtrooms for months, and you have a sitting president who had 2 public appearances last week. 2 in 1 week, while the United States military is under attack overseas. And that's a circumstance that I think a lot of people would not have predicted. I got to run, Kelly.
That was probably 2 more appearances than as vice president. Trump's got a lot of things to spring on us now. A vice presidential pick, a convention that's going to be spectacular. Biden's got to create some moments. I think some of the Democrats are watching Biden and Harris bleed out and just focusing on 2028. Right now, it doesn't look good for them. Trump is dominating among independents. The New York Times claims he's getting more of the college-educated folks. And look, in 2016, we coined the phrase the undercover hidden Trump voter to international ridicule. Ha, they'll still be hidden on Election Day. They're real. In 2020, they weren't hidden. They were having boat parades and out in their MAGA hats in the snow. You got more people now who aren't going to tell everybody they're voting for Trump, not because they're embarrassed, they're pretty proud, but because they don't want every night to feel like Thanksgiving with the in-laws. that your vote is private for a reason. They're going to come out and vote for him.
But Biden voters as well.
They're not hidden.
Well, we don't run around necessarily with the flags and the paraphernalia, but we show up to vote.
Jessica's about to get her way about the whole 2 hours. You see how this is working, right? Thank you. Great to be with you.
Thanks, ladies.
See you guys.
In a moment here, the lead prosecutor taking on Trump's election interference case, allegedly using his relationship over his resume to secure the job and make a lot of money doing it. And then there's this.
A chilling rescue caught on camera. The trooper taking the plunge to save a child. She will speak to us later this hour.
You know, I don't know what kind of pace you keep, but this is extraordinary. President Trump leaving Iowa late last night. Today, he's arriving in a Manhattan courtroom, attending the penalty phase of that civil defamation suit brought by E. Jean Carroll. She's the author and columnist who sued him for sexual assault at a department store back in the 1990s in New York. Back in May, a jury found he sexually abused and defamed Carroll, awarded her $5 million. And today, jury selection begins in a related trial to determine how much he must pay in damages. Trump has maintained his innocence, and keep in mind, we do believe he will be in New Hampshire by the end of the day today for a rally with Vivek Ramaswamy. Okay? 24 hours, keep an eye on it, follow the bouncing political ball and legal ball as well.
Bounce it does.
All right, there's this.
I appointed 3 special counsel, as is my right to do, paid them all the same hourly rate. They only attacked one.
A court chip controversy surrounding the election interference case against former President Trump. This is a story you got to just listen to this, okay? Georgia DA Fani Willis coming under scrutiny for hiring her alleged boyfriend. His name is Nathan Wade, plucking the unlikely candidate to lead the prosecution in his first federal case, despite a troubling track record. With us now is Fox News legal editor Carrie Kupek-Urban. Here's the number of payments made, $654,000 since January of 2022. And also just want to show you the salary of Wade compared to the justices at $186,000 per year. And here you have a situation where Fani Willis, to great fanfare and a lot of media attention, brought this case against President Trump using RICO. A lot of people think, well, gosh, this is a tough case because it's state court and not federal court. Even if he became president again, he could not pardon himself from it. Set us up for understanding what is happening here, Carrie. To me, this story feels very big.
Yeah, at a minimum, the optics are bad. And Dana, you and I both know as former press secretaries, optics can make or break something. And here, I think they're running into some serious trouble. As you just pointed out, the salary that she's paying Nathan Wade, it's not just very high. According to our own internal research, we think it may make him the highest paid prosecutor in all of the state of Georgia without any relevant experience. On top of that, they're allegedly dating. The questions on that would be, was that disclosed? How was the hiring process? Like, how did that go exactly? And, you know, he's getting paid this very high salary, and apparently they've been taking very nice, lavish vacations on his dime. So it raises all kinds of ethics issues and potential impropriety at a minimum.
So Michael Roman is one of the defendants. Apparently his team found out about this and exposed it. And this is the motion to dismiss, just a portion of it. It says, accordingly, the district attorney and the special prosecutor have violated laws regulating the use of public monies, suffer from irreparable conflicts of interest, and have violated their oaths of office under the Georgia rules of professional conduct and should be disqualified from prosecuting this matter. Who decides that?
This is where it gets tricky. A complaint would be filed with the state of Georgia. There's an investigative body that would take a look into this, potentially conclude that she acted improperly, disqualify her. The Georgia Supreme Court would have the last say. But it's also possible, Dana, that the judge throws out the case because of some of the arguments that this person has been making, and including that they are profiting off his prosecution. And one thing I found interesting, our Brain Room did some great research, and Nathan Wade has had some optics optics issues in the past as well. Apparently, at one point, he hosted a fundraiser for someone while at the same time was prosecuting that person's political opponent. At the time, the judge said this is a, quote, what are you thinking moment, and that the optics were, quote, horrific. So it remains to be seen what will happen here, but it's not looking good.
Carrie Kupek-Urban, it's great to have you on our team and on our side, helping us understand these important issues. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Carrie. 25 passed, and the man charged with 3 murders in the Gilgo Beach case in New York is back in court today. There are new developments on this, possibility of more murder counts, so stand by for that. We're live outside the courthouse. Also, the bone-chilling cold across a lot of the country now. It's still out there right now, crippling parts of the country. The electric car battery is in question, leaving some drivers stranded.
Serial killer due in court today. Now, he's charged with the murders of 3 women in Long Island, New York, back in 2009 and 2010. Prosecutors will reportedly add a 4th murder to that count. CB Cotton is live from criminal court in Suffolk County, New York, and she can tell us what we can expect today. Hi, CB.
Hi, Dana. Good morning. In a matter of moments, we're expecting more answers and a string of mysterious killings, which stumped detectives here on Long Island for more than a decade. Sources telling Fox News Manhattan architect Rex Heuermann will be charged again, this time with a 4th murder. Prosecutors have called Heuermann the prime suspect in the death of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, who was 25 years old, working as an escort when she was reported missing in 2007. Her remains found 3 years later, wrapped in a burlap sack near Gilgo Beach, bound by a belt stamped with the initials WH or HM, which could have been Heuermann's grandfather, prosecutors told the outlet Newsday. Heuermann pleaded not guilty last summer to murder charges in the deaths of 3 other sex workers, Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello, whose remains were also found in burlap on the same remote stretch of Gilgo Beach. In total, more than 10 sets of remains were uncovered in the area between December 2010 and April 2011. Investigators took Heuermann into custody last summer. Outside his office, investigators say they linked Heuermann to the crimes through phone records, his Chevy Avalanche truck, and a male hair found on one of the victims, which matched his DNA profile on discarded pizza crust. After these new charges are unsealed, Dana, we're expected to hear from the district attorney. Back to you.
CB Cotton in New York, thank you.
So Paul Morrow, former NYPD, with us now. Fox News contributor. Paul, good morning to you. Also an attorney as well. Call for number 3. CB was just referring to the evidence against Heuermann. I find it intriguing, right? Chevrolet Avalanche, that's the car. Burner phones and taunting calls, online searches, wife's hair believed found on bodies, and DNA from the pizza crust. Paul, where'd he go with that?
What's interesting about this case, Bill, is that all of that evidence doesn't go to all of the victims. It's actually sort of dispersed among the 4 victims. Each of those points that you make, they're not uniform across all 4 of the victims. So that brings us to the latest, what looks to be the latest indictment and arrest for Maureen Brainerd Barnes. She's kind of been the outlier. He has not been charged. She was the first person to go missing. That was back in 2007. And so the question arises, relative to all the evidence that you articulate, why did it take them so long to build probable cause relative to her case? And there's a number of things we can speculate about. Certainly the fact that she was killed early on, apparently, seems to have something to do with it. There's a very good chance that the one hair of Asa Ellerup, that's Rex's wife, that was found was further degraded than the other hair samples. And so it took the independent forensic lab that much longer to work with the genome sequencer to give them enough to test to do the mitochondrial DNA, which eliminates other suspects. The other possibility is, as mentioned, is the belt. It was Maureen Brainerd Barnes who was wrapped with that belt, which is a little different from the other bodies. So there are some things that are unique to her. It looks like those were the strands that they were pulling at as they were trying to get PC on her. The others have the evidence you talk about, whether it's the car, the phones, the online searches, etc. But they said they were going to get there on this 4th one, and kudos to them, they did so.
Okay, charges against Heuermann so far. You got 3 counts of first-degree murder, 3 counts second-degree murder, and he pled guilty back in mid-July on the 14th of July. The strip of beach on Long Island that he was using, depending on the time of year, you know it well, Paul, This could be a pretty deserted stretch of land there on the island.
Yeah, it's very, very remote, and that actually plays into this because it's windy, the conditions are really harsh, and as a result, a lot of the evidence by the time the bodies were discovered was very degraded. Even the last victim, Amber Lynn, she was only discovered a few months after she went missing, but nonetheless, they hadn't found her, and the evidence was surely degraded because of how harsh the conditions are out there. Remember something else, Bill. They developed probable cause on this guy, what they felt was at least close to probable cause, almost a year before they picked him up. And they had to surveil him for that year while he was still using burner phones, doing online searches in pornography sites, etc. That must have been a really nerve-wracking time because they had to make sure he didn't do something else. So this task force has really been working. I know the sheriff's office has been interviewing sex workers all over Long Island. They're going to Rikers Island next. So they're really working this hard to see if any of this other stuff that you talk about can be relevant to some of the other bodies.
Well, it got all of our attention over the summer, certainly, and is back again today. Paul, nice to see you. Thank you. Paul Morrow, Fox News contributor in New York. Thanks. Amy.
Well, Alex Murdaugh of South Carolina, he is back in court right now. This is a live video. So there's going to be an evidentiary hearing on January 29th. Or this is an evidentiary hearing about this question of whether he should get a new trial in the murders of his son and his wife. And this had to do with jury tampering and the questions of whether that actually happened. So this is an evidentiary hearing. He's back in court right now. No, you are not looking at a flashback. It's happening again.
Wow.
And we will follow this for you.
Could be remarkable if he gets that, right? Okay. There's that. And there's this.
Ceasefire now! End the occupation! Death to apartheid!
So federal employees going to walk off the job in protest of the president's response in the Israeli-Hamas war. Has there been a change in that, though, today? We're going to check in on that. And family-owned fishing companies fighting a federal regulation all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, the cases could have wide-reaching consequences for federal agencies.
The loss would be devastating for us. We would lose a third of our trips, which is almost 70 trips, to the tune of almost 150,000.
Doing online searches in pornography sites, etc. That must have been a really nerve-wracking time because they had to make sure he didn't do something else. So this task force has really been working. I know the sheriff's office has been interviewing sex workers all over Long Island. They're going to Rikers Island next. So they're really working this hard to see if any of this other stuff that you talk about can be relevant to some of the other bodies.
Well, it got all of our attention over the summer, certainly, and is back again today. Paul, nice to see you. Thank you. Paul Morrow, Fox News contributor in New York. Thanks. Amy.
Well, Alex Murdaugh of South Carolina, he is back in court right now. This is a live video. So there's going to be an evidentiary hearing on January 29th. Or this is an evidentiary hearing about this question of whether he should get a new trial in the murders of his son and his wife. And this had to do with jury tampering and the questions of whether that actually happened. So this is an evidentiary hearing. He's back in court right now. No, you are not looking at a flashback. It's happening again.
Wow.
And we will follow this for you.
Could be remarkable if he gets that, right? Okay. There's that. And there's this.
Ceasefire now! End the occupation! Death to apartheid!
So federal employees going to walk off the job in protest of the president's response in the Israeli-Hamas war. Has there been a change in that, though, today? We're going to check in on that. And family-owned fishing companies fighting a federal regulation all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, the cases could have wide-reaching consequences for federal agencies.
The loss would be devastating for us. We would lose a third of our trips, which is almost 70 trips, to the tune of almost 150,000.